It is Friday, that means it is Smackdown, that means 2 hours of wrestling featuring Randy Orton, possibly even a Roman Reigns, possibly even a CM Punk and a Cody Rhodes. So it looks like we might get a mini Raw invasion tonight. It'll be interesting to see how that one plays out, but welcome everyone to our watch party. My name is Tom Colohue. I will be hosting you this evening, going through the wonderful wacky world of wrestling and talking about the different ins and outs of each individual piece. Randy Orton will be there tonight, as will Logan Paul. We also get good old-fashioned wrestling in the form of Grayson Waller versus Kevin Owens. I'd imagine there will also be some sort of reaction to the women's war games. I'm going to keep my eye on Bayley because she did a great job, and I don't necessarily think her team did a good enough job protecting her. The build to WrestleMania did start with Survivor Series. Typically that is when we kick off, even going so far as the Royal Rumble win for Drew McIntyre the year before, or at least a couple of months before, for Survivor Series. He pinned Gunther. That is the last time that Gunther was pinned on the main roster, and he's certainly been on the roster for quite a while since. So it's the good old crazy world of WWE wrestling. It is Friday Night Smackdown. Randy Orton is everything that they've been pushing. We'll see what else plays out. But welcome to everyone. 7 likes already. Always nice to see. We have Joe, we have Stuart, we have Dom, we have James, Leon and Pete in the chat as we speak. James is saying Punk tonight. Punk has not been announced, and I suspect if he was there he would have been. Leon says Red Panda Colohue is back. It is indeed, because it's cold. It is not warm here today. If I go by American Fahrenheit, it is 54 degrees in my house right now, and outside it's much, much lower than that. Pete says, hey Sir Tom and chat, let's get some tables, and can I get a hell yeah? Hell yeah you can. Bianca Belair is opening the show. This seems like it's going to be our celebration. She's got some brand new attire, which fits really well with her overall entrance theme. Fair enough, Leon. James says, look at this crowd. This is constant pro wrestling is at its top again. Well, WWE is at its top again. WWE is. Joe giving you a hell yeah as well, Pete. As this is the first show after a main pay-per-view, what we're going to see is a hell of a lot of recaps, particularly the women's war games. But we'll also get a recap as regards Santos Escobar and find out what's going on there. I feel like this is going to be mostly recap because they're showing you a lot of this match. By the time Bianca starts talking, it might be 10 minutes past commercial break time. Are you enjoying that, Pete? As long as I'm a red panda, all is good. That's basically my rule in life. If I'm a red panda, I'm good. The bin spot still feels unpleasantly ridiculous. I don't mind it. Bailey says, gotcha. Says, Tom, when you say you didn't understand my question earlier, I was asking about the Performance Center, where the trainees work out. With such a full roster, we aren't seeing as many moving up to NXT lately. That is true. As regards the Performance Center, though, it is used by main roster talent as well. Everyone uses a Performance Center, including Triple H, to stay sharp. So it's not exactly key to everything that they do, but it's key to most things they do. Megan is here, says, I'll see you're cold and raise you -6 degrees or 22 Fahrenheit. Fair enough, we're only -2 here. Only -2 here. I'm not expecting to see Becky Lynch tonight, though this vignette certainly suggests we will. It's not necessarily about who won the match, which of course that was Becky. It's more about who lost the match for SmackDown. Shotzi, I'd imagine, will also get a bit of a pat on the back for her involvement as well. They go dark when they show you the actual pinfall, but they make it very clear who won. Interesting. Gomar is here, says, hello Tom and chat, how's it going? Going well, thank you Gomar, welcome to the show. Bianca Belair is alone in the ring. I don't think that one's going to last. True, Pete, true. You're a busy man on that bike of yours. TikTok thanks you for it. Good welcome for Bianca. She's definitely reaching that top level now. She's earned it. Bailey says the US got Fahrenheit, came from the UK. Of course, no one here understands Celsius. We only understand Celsius here. I've tried to understand Fahrenheit and I kind of get it. But our 0 is your 30. Don't make sense. Leon, as regards Punk's promo, it was okay. Anyone expecting a huge pipe bomb, that wasn't the point. The point was for him to show that he'd changed, that he'd chilled out, that he'd relaxed. That was the point there. So being a bit boring is kind of what they're going for. Not a good reception for Charlotte there. True, Pete, very worth mentioning. Dom, Leon and Bailey all pointing out that there is someone missing when it comes to damage control. Bianca, meanwhile, going after championships, that's not what I see being the Rumble match. I do see Io Sky defending at the Royal Rumble, though. I see both men's and both women's championships being defended. Might be a busy event. Also, of course, telling that our mouthpiece is Dakota Kai, who I previously mentioned will be going with them when they go. It feels like a bit of a beta test for how damage control will look when Bailey does go, and to see if Dakota Kai can run it. I like Kairi Sane's jacket. I can't really describe why. I just like it. Joe says, I think I'm going to admit I'm still getting used to CM Punk around. I still don't entirely believe it's real. Damage control, or at least the non-Dakota Kai contingent, because she's still playing injured. Making some threats. Two fingers up from the Io Sky. Gotta be careful. See, you would think we're heading towards Bianca versus someone, but the second damage control started coming down, it was pretty clear we were going to get some sort of tag team contingent. And hey, if we end up with Shotzi, Charlotte and Bianca versus Asuka, Io and Kairi, I can't claim to be surprised by it. After all, if Bailey can't get the job done, they'll need to swap her out for someone. If you've seen PLE Wednesdays, I think Charlotte may be the one who gets the spot against Io Sky at the Royal Rumble. Shotzi given a very, very brief bit of promo there. Very brief. We have a good old-fashioned scrap. No one seems to be trying to break them up. Bianca Belair already thrown to the outside. She's got some rescuing to do. I've just heard what Michael Cole said there. I guess War Games didn't settle anything. So what was the point? It's one of the problems they had with Hell in a Cell. You give it the big, huge match, the big, huge final send-off, and then the next week they're just keeping going. The fight just continues. Io alone in the ring with all three. Shotzi may get an opportunity, but I can't see that happening with the Royal Rumble. Bianca's had opportunities recently. 6-woman tag there. Michael Cole also pointing out no Bailey. I'd imagine later in the night they'll say that she's recovering at home. James says, what was the point of War Games? It's a good question. Certainly doesn't prove anything. You've immediately started talking CM Punk. We will not see him tonight, but we will see a recap video of his return tonight. We're not going to run out of CM Punk content. They know what they're doing about this one. Kevin Owens and Grayson Waller announced tonight. The only actual match announced as far as I know. Joe says, I would say I'm definitely looking forward to the Royal Rumble this year. 2024 coming up. I think it's going to be massive. There's going to be a lot of change in the WWE. I do feel like there is. The biggest change, of course, was the addition of CM Punk. Logan Paul is being billed as a champion disruptor. I mean, I guess that works. We are opening with the Brawling Brutes. As Joey quite rightly points out, this is Recap Smackdown. I also mentioned that at the beginning of the show. After a pay-per-view, you do tend to get just wall-to-wall recap. It's awkward. Gomar wants Logan Paul versus Randy Orton. Interesting. Butch flying solo today. This would be a great time for Sheamus to return, I'll tell you that. James says, since CM Punk has been back, we haven't seen many posts of LA Knight. Butch has a match today. Butch does indeed. Against Bobby Lashley. Good luck, Butch. Good luck, Butch. Again, will be a very good time for Sheamus to come back, force Ridge Holland to return, and we end up in a massive 6-man tag. Just going to throw that out there. Megan says, with Charlotte and Bianca, I'm reckoning that whoever doesn't have a singles match at the Rumble will be the Iron Woman in the Women's Rumble. Depends how it goes. I do think Damage Control are going to have some pretty big sway in the Rumble this year. They're definitely going to be at least somewhat represented. Joey says, it feels like Roman is never coming back. James points out Roman's back on the 15th. He will be back in the build to Royal Rumble, and he will be back for the Christmas, New Year's stuff anyway. They do make a point of having at least plenty of Roman involved. Next Friday will be the Tribute for the Troops show. Tribute to the Troops, Tribute for the Troops, something about troops. We will not actually be here for that one. I should point out, next Friday, I will be basically travelling to do some Christmas shopping and taking a bit of a weekend off. So the Friday, we will not have spoiler warning. We will not have our SmackDown watch party. That's next week. I'll instead be going on a very brief trip and just having a little break before the carnage of Christmas for children comes in. Leon says, Butch looks very similar to Pete Dunne. It must be brothers. The scrappy-do energy is the main difference. Megan says, of course they will, but I do think it might be close for that spot. Fair. I'd like to see it. There's always at least one Iron Woman, one ring general. Triple H, historically, likes to bring in some new people. Rhea Ripley, Gunter, Cody Rhodes, not so much. It was Gunter, it was Rhea Ripley, it was Liv Morgan last year. I reckon you could make someone new with it. Tiffany Stratton, for example. Dom says, if you could sign one person, who would you pick? I'll pick Rusev. I think it would be great for the World Heavyweight title. Joe. It would definitely be Samoa Joe, no questions asked. He should have had multiple championships. Stuart says, sitting here trying to fast forward ads and wondering why the remote wasn't working. As I did mention during spoiler warning, the YouTube layout now is that they will essentially run ads for you. I've set it to standard. If it starts getting egregious, let me know. Whenever you get an ad, if you can just give me a quick heads up, I can then take that and basically see, is that way too much? Is that way too little? Blah, blah, blah. P says, don't tell me what you're getting for Christmas. I want it to be a surprise. Do you live in my cupboard now? James says, don't you think it feels like there isn't even 30 plus women for the Royal Rumble? They've just been focusing on about 12 the last 6 months. Disagree. Very much disagree. If we just look at SmackDown, for example, then we have the obvious ones, Damage Control, Bayley, Asuka, Kairi Sane, and Io Sky. We then have Dakota Kai, which is not actively being used much. On the other side of the aisle, you then have Bianca, Charlotte Flair, Shotzi. There's plenty more when you go further into that roster that they don't really focus on much. Let's swap over to Raw. You've got the obvious ones, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan due to return from injury relatively soon, Nia Jax, Raquel Rodriguez, Becky Lynch, Zoe Stark, no mention of Trish Stratus in there. You've also then got the Xia Lees, for example. You've got Michin. You've got Nikki Cross. You've got the Women's Tag Team Champions. That's before you factor in Sonya Deville is training for a return to action. She's not quite there yet, but she's getting there. You also have, even going further still, you wander into the NXT, the Tiffany Stratton, Lia Valkyria. There's plenty of women. I think at this point there's more than there ever has been for the divisions, to be fair, but they're definitely not all main roster. Oh, forgot Shayna Baszler as well. Yeah, the ads still come as a channel member. The ads only stop if you're YouTube Premium. YouTube changed that a while ago. I have no control over that. YouTube have just decided that channel membership does not guarantee no ads anymore. Joey says, I hated the 2022 Royal Rumble, may have been the worst one. Is that the one where it was Brock and Ronda? We have confirmed that Bianca Belair will take on Kairi Sane tonight. And imagine, and honestly, I'm a little disappointed that Bianca Belair wasn't more annoyed and zeroing in on Kairi Sane herself. It certainly does seem to me like they've pulled back from the intended heel turn, so maybe Jade Cargill is sticking on SmackDown. Damage Control running to Bayley backstage. No one seems particularly happy with her. Dakota Kai can speak a little bit of Japanese, so she actually would be able to interpret, just to be clear. I don't think we're quite there with Bayley being kicked out yet, but it definitely feels like it's coming. So we're opening with Butch versus Bobby Lashley. In the minutes to come, we will have an update on Santos Escobar. Dragon Lee, of course, took his first loss on the main roster, and the match was not quite what we were expecting. Maybe we expected a little too much. Bobby Lashley in some new gear. Again, I do feel that when you look at the Street Profits, Angelo Dawkins in particular looks amazing at the moment. Montez Ford has always looked amazing. The man looks incredible in the suit. Angelo Dawkins is really, really looking quite impressive. James says they're distancing themselves from Bayley. They absolutely are, but that's not the same thing as kicking her out. The moment will come, and I do feel the Royal Rumble will play into it. Dom says, where's Sheamus? Is Butch just left alone? Or is this how we set up Sheamus versus Lashley? Either one could happen. Sheamus is training. I don't necessarily believe that he's there, but I don't know. It's one of those where I feel if Sheamus was there, it would have been reported to high heaven. But I do think that's what we're building towards. Sheamus coming back, getting the Brawling Brute properly back together. I always respect that Pete Dunne just always talks like where he came from. You ain't gonna mug me off like that. Love it. Leon says Bobby's gear looks weird. Everything looks weird the first time you see it. I still fondly remember when Burn It Down first was added to Seth's theme, and everybody hated it. And then everyone started shouting it. Eric is here. Welcome, mate. Hi, Tom. How are you? Doing well, thank you, Eric. Welcome to the show. James saying Bobby stole Dom Dom's gear. I mean, there's a crossover, isn't there? There's definitely a crossover. A lot of people doing the two-finger salutes at the moment. Megan says, yep, the 2022 Rumble sucked, especially in men's where Shane O'Mac went full Shane O'Mac. Oh, now you're reminding me of things. They completely wasted Bad Bunny. Completely wasted Bad Bunny. Ugh. Bailey says, I know WWE doesn't want a new belt and she'll never get the spot, but Shayna Baszler would make a good mid-card champion. Fair. Strong chance for Bobby Lashley there, who just sort of permits the crowd to do so. Bobby Lashley making a claim that he now has to follow through with. Coup43 says, do you see a squash match or a competitive match? Stranger this sound, I see a competitive squash match. So, one-on-one, face-to-face, Bobby Lashley will dominate Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne will definitely pick his moments, attacking from behind, going for the knees, just using an intelligent grapple. He will have his moments. But no, whenever it's a fair fight, it'll be all Bobby. Megan says, Shayna should have won the Rumble instead of Charlotte. Yes, I will keep going on about this. You and me both. I appreciate when you bring that in, because I still feel as passionate as you do about it. That ain't going to change. James says they do need a mid-card belt for the women's. They have one, the Women's Tag Team Championships, and until they can actually use them, and use them in a way where we have to remember they exist all the time, I don't think they can afford to add more championships. The general rule for me is, don't have more championships than you're going to use. Bailey says of all the women coming back in 2024, there won't be much room to put them in televised matches. Yet there's plenty of women who don't get put in televised matches now. Xia Li got a good spot against Becky, we ain't seen her since. Butch with an opportunity here. He won't have long. Good catch from Bobby Lashley, had to move into the right spot there. Joey says Vince buried Shayna, certainly put her in a position where she couldn't recover from. Another moonsault. It's especially awkward considering Vince booked Shayna to dominate in the Elimination Chamber. He booked that, the highlight of her career, and then just basically forgot about it. Into our second commercial break. Pete Dunne having a moment of ascendancy. We'll see how long it lasts. I'd imagine he won't be there when we get back to him. It raises a good question though, and I appreciate what we've got there. When it comes to mid-card championships, the suggestion of Shayna Baszler isn't a bad one in any way, shape or form. I'd be interested to see what they do with her. With that as a point though, Bayley's raised it. If there was a mid-card women's championship, who would you have winning it first? And would you have it on Raw or SmackDown? James says Shayna retired Ronda and that was it. Should have had a feud with Ronda. She should have, but Ronda was the one who didn't let that happen. We ain't blaming WWE for Ronda saying, yeah, I want to leave, I'm going to go next month, bye. Nothing they could really do. Shayna looked good in that feud. Then the match happened. And nobody came out of that match looking good. Nobody. MMA rules was awful. Awful. I do apologise, guys. Oh, gotcha, James. I would imagine a Rhea Ripley feud is still very much incoming. Maybe that's your Royal Rumble match, but as long as we've got Nia Jax, it kind of must be. Joey says it felt like Ronda just went into business for herself when WWE let her have creative freedom. I'd been reporting on that one for a couple of years. When she first came back, there was plenty in her contract that meant that when Triple H took over, there was nothing he could do. That caused the issues that led to her leaving. It's another one of those. I'm kind of glad that we were able to see the report in action confirmed, but also it just wasn't a good moment for wrestling. Bailey says the WWE rules match, the MMA rules match was the women's version of the Brawl for All, hopeless from the start. To be fair, the Brawl for All was good when Steve Blackman was involved. And then they were like, well, no, he's used grapples. You're not allowed to do that, even though the rules said you could. Like, what did you think was going to happen there? So they basically cheated it and then had to go back on it because, Bradshaw got beat. I'm doing well, Eric. How are you? We are indeed back from break, and Butch is no longer in the strongest of positions. He will continue his hit and run tactics. Bobby Lashley will continue to deal with them. Meanwhile, you can see the Street Profits at ringside basically hyping the crowd. I don't even know for certain if they're supposed to be face or heel anymore, because they're getting a lot of love from the crowd and they're playing up to it. I'm starting to think, much like Her Business, it doesn't really matter if you're supposed to be a heel. You're cool. Thank you, James. Appreciate that. Just got an ad. Okay. It also allows me to look at sort of the bar chart, telling me how many viewers I've had, the chat rate and so on, and work out basically who and how many were driven away by the ad. Because that does happen. Whenever there's an ad, it does briefly kill the momentum. So thank you, James. Eric says, do you see Rhea main eventing Chamber with it being in her hometown? That would make sense. I can see that. I can see her defending a championship there. Thank you, Stuart. Appreciate you. Yeah, not everyone gets them, Joey. The idea is that they're sort of spread out. Earlier on, when I had spoiler warning, if there's, for example, the brief point where there was about 100 people in there, 20, 30 will get an ad at a time. Some of them obviously won't say anything. It's just a very different system, and I'm still kind of getting used to it. I'm trying to work out if it's for me or if I should just turn off ads for lives. James says that was the first one of 2 ads I've got on your channel. Oh, you don't get a lot then, James? Is it usually the case that channel members don't get them? Because I'm trying to give you guys perks, you know? You get emojis, you get members only stuff. Gotcha. Joey says, I only tend to get ads when I first open the stream. Yeah, usually I have it set so you only get a second ad if I personally click the button. Usually that's the only case. You get one when we start out, just automatically from YouTube. And then if you get another one, it will be me actually clicking the button and saying so. But no, this is a YouTube automation. You click monetize and it just does its thing. The alternative, as I mentioned, is not monetizing, which I am doing this for a reason more than just fun. Butch just kicked out of the running power slam that Braun Strowman used very effectively for a number of years. Apparently Bobby Lashley's not that good at it. Every 20 or so minutes. Cheers, James. I know that in the end there were 4 in the show earlier, but for an hour-long show, that's not bad. Especially when you can skip them. Good sell by Butch on that clothesline. Bobby Lashley starting to turn the screw now. I don't really fancy Butch's chances anymore. He's still managing to keep in there. The crowd does seem to know who to cheer for, and that'll be that. Amazing sell by Butch. And a 1, and a 2, and a 3. Gomel says, good match. We tend to rate the matches here, as you guys know. We rate them out of 10. I'm going a 7. I honestly quite enjoyed that. It was very realistic use of Butch, being very scrappy, but ultimately being stopped. He was able to be quite inventive. The couple of moonsaults on the outside were good, but Bobby Lashley's Bobby Lashley. You just can't deal with that. 7 out of 10 for me. What did you think of that match, and what rating would you give it? James says that running power slam was only powerful for Braun because he's a monster among men. Someone in the crowd doing an RVD pose. Bailey gives the match a 6.5. Jack gives it an 8. Stuart gives the match a 7. So plenty of positivity around it. A brief match. It was only, 15 minutes? But it was fun. It's time for another recap. This time the men's War Games match. Quarter of the way into Smackdown, and so far I think I've had about 10 minutes of recaps. Megan says 6 for me. Liked it, didn't love it. Still not sure what the point of the Lashley Profits trio is though. I think it's just to guarantee that they're all on TV more. I think the faction was literally just put together because Triple H doesn't want them dropping off TV. To be clear though, I don't hate it. I think it's a very good combination that works very well for everyone involved. They just need to actually win something now. Coop43 says Ring of Honor pay-per-view has only sold 996 tickets and it's in 2 weeks. Coop43, do you have the source for that? Just so we know where the source is coming from. James says going to get like 8 recaps. Yep. We're going to get the Randy Orton element. We're also, I feel, going to get another recap of the CM Punk element. Joey says, I'm still wondering if WWE is ever going to follow up on the AJ and Roman feud. Well, PW Insider did report that Gallows and Anderson are backstage tonight. I wouldn't be surprised to see AJ there. Thank you, Coop, for free WrestleTix. They are pretty much unassailable as a source when it comes to the ticket sales. Stuart says the RKO was nice. It really was. Very nicely done by JD McDonough. Jumped to just the right spot so that Randy Orton didn't have to work too hard. Randy just had to wait for JD to come to him. Lovely finish to the match. Lots of hugs, and they're saving the Punk to last. Gomez says, I'll take this over the month-long Cody Brock feud recap. Ugh. That feud was eternal. Paul Heyman has something to say to Nick Aldis. Leon, as regards the match we've just seen, says, it happened. 6. Big pop for the name Randy Orton. Nick Aldis trying to make sure that Randy Orton stays on SmackDown. For those who missed spoiler warning earlier, Roman Reigns and Randy Orton at Royal Rumble seems like it's going to happen tonight. Or it's going to start tonight, I should say. Dom gives the match a 6.5. James says, no way they're going to swap the whole bloodline to Raw just for Randy. No, why would they do that? It's an empty threat. Even the crowd in attendance doesn't see it happening. That said, I do think I need to think about this for a second. The SmackDown TV deal is already set. The Raw TV deal isn't. So if you've got big stars, might as well use them on Raw. Stuart says, I still remember the days Nick Aldis was one of the gladiators on ITV. Was he? I did not know that. I need to look that up. That will be funny. Wow, they're really using Christmas to sell t-shirts, aren't they? I don't get what I'm supposed to do with the Yeet t-shirt. Doesn't make much sense to me. Like, for those who don't know, I regularly watch Smosh. They've got a show called Eat It or Yeet It. That's all I think about. That's all I think about. Megan says, yes, he was Oblivion. It was hilarious because he was the bad guy I think the role Wolf had in the original. Wolf was amazing. Not enough respect gets put onto the name of Wolf from Gladiators. I have only the best memories. James says, who do you think would be traded for Randy? I don't necessarily think anyone would be traded. He's basically a free agent now. He's basically a free agent, so with that in mind, surely you'd just be signing him, not necessarily trading him. Yeah, Stuart says when they replaced the original, he was one of the newer ones. Interesting. I don't think I ever watched New Gladiators. Wolf was my guy. I think it's one of the reasons I fell so in love with Triple H. Because I liked Wolf. I liked the bad guy. About halfway through SmackDown, Randy Orton logically will be our main event. I'd imagine Logan Paul will be the draw segment. Which means the last match will be Bianca Belair versus Kairi Sane. They've got plenty of time to build towards that. The use of Bayley is going to be quite important. But we are maintaining Triple H's general system for half-hour blocks. One match, one promo. Usually it's one recap, but we've had two. We're talking Randy Orton. We will end up talking CM Punk. There will be a vignette there. It's not impossible that it's there. CM Punk will be going back and forth a lot over the next few weeks to try and guarantee high ratings. But I kind of suspect that WWE might be about to sort of give up on SmackDown a little bit. Their focus will be on Raw. I suspect Roman Reigns will be making appearances on Raw. He can go wherever he wants after all. But with with the SmackDown TV deal sorted, there's plenty more to go. Bayley suggests someone is going to inadvertently cost Kairi the match. I think we know who. James says, I'm surprised I didn't use your Punk reaction on Raw. I mean, I definitely had a reaction. But I don't think they can do that because I immediately break kayfabe and explain exactly what he's going to be doing next. I appreciate that heads up, Eric. It's something I am working on. It's just a case of having time while having 2 jobs and 2 kids. Time's at a premium. I will continue to do what I can. I'm trying to make it happen. It's just not easy. We spoke earlier about the main event for night 1 of WrestleMania. And it does feel like CM Punk is coming in, kicking people out of the way, and claiming that spot. Punk versus Rollins at WrestleMania seems pretty certain right now. Honestly, I'm very excited for Rollins to get the credit he deserves, but CM Punk walking in and immediately getting a World Championship match at WrestleMania, I'm not there for it. Especially given that, yes, Seth Rollins is a professional. Yes, he will work with CM Punk. He's still not happy. Like, CM Punk is going backstage and apologising, but he's still not happy. Joey said at this rate, Gunter is never going to drop the IC title with Punk back. I wouldn't necessarily say they're connected. Whatever plans there were would never involve CM Punk. So those plans will continue. Butch is backstage holding his neck. James says Rollins going to put on a classic if he finally gets the main event of Mania Night 1. And Eric says I thought Bayley and Io would main event Night 1. Why? What made you think that? Pretty Deadly interrupting backstage in the most British segment we've ever seen in wrestling. I thought he might just beat the hell out of him. In many ways, he picked this fight and he's going to pay for it. Can't really say he didn't earn his spot. I don't expect that was supposed to fall, but it did. Right, Pretty Deadly lost their mind a little bit there, and I respect it. Bit of character and personality to come out. It's not just in the good times you get to have a character. The bad times too. You got to show your stress. The hell? What is that? Highlight of the night? What does that mean? Are they doing a slam of the week? They're doing a slam of the week. So that we can get an update on what's going on with Santos Escobar, Carlito, Dragon Lee. Will Rey Mysterio actually be involved now? Because lately he's been missing. He's on a limited date contract after all. He does get time off when he wants it. Survivor Series did not bring additions or a new faction for Santos. The promised arrival of Los Lotharios still yet to manifest, but to be fair, the promise did not say it would happen at Survivor Series. Now might be the time. Coup43 says, a big thing for Will Ospreay was not moving to the US. Do you see his contract being similar to that of Pac with his limited appearances in the US? Yeah. Yeah, Ospreay never wanted to move to the US, and now he doesn't have to. He lives in Essex down here in the UK. Joey says, I hope Vince doesn't try to weasel his way into creative again around Mania time. Yeah, Ari Emanuel would not let him do that. They know who he is and they know what he does. I swear we got this entire recap last week. Like the entire thing. And then again at Survivor Series. Did they just not have any wrestling this week? just all recap. I get that I always say that the retention rate is the worst challenge that AEW has to face, and this is why it happens. They don't put in recaps. But there's a difference between a recap saying what the story is and a recap saying what happened over the last 3 weeks in exact detail. There's just too much. I suppose it also means that the announce team or the commentary team don't just have to sit there and read the entire script. They didn't even show us what happened at Survivor Series. Escobar is in action. He takes on one of his former proteges. He really rolled that up. Santos does look like a bigger deal right now. I don't think he's necessarily launched himself into the stratosphere like they were hoping for. But he's at least a little more serious, a little more intense. And for the next 10 minutes, he's going to go to war. Let's see if he can deliver the match quality that they were looking for, because there was some disappointment around the Dragon Lee match. Some definite disappointment. What did everybody make then of Santos Escobar's match against Dragon Lee at Survivor Series? I thought it was okay, but very brief. And I expected a real athletic showcase, and I don't feel we got that. I don't feel anything particularly stood out about the match, and that's a real shame. As regards Dragon Lee, I expect he'll go quiet a little bit, maybe pop up here to stop a further beatdown, but I think that might be kind of the end of Dragon Lee's push. For Carlito, guys, I'm going to be honest. I don't know how much of him we're going to see in the future. Carlito hasn't been important. He's got this storyline going, but he hasn't really wrestled. He had the one match against Bobby Lashley, a couple of minutes in the tag match when he returned. I don't necessarily think he was worth bringing back. Gomar says, Dave Meltzer said on Wrestling Observer, Carlito being replaced was always part of the plan, which is confusing. It really is, isn't it? It really is. That does not make sense. If you're going to have a match, you might as well have the match that you're booking. And yet they do all this smoke and mirrors, don't they? I don't know. Leon says, very disappointing. They could have had match of the night if given more time. I think they also needed to up their game a little bit. James says, Carlito was limping before even getting to the ring before he got injured. But here's the thing. If that was always the plan, he wouldn't have been limping before he got to the ring. He wouldn't have been showing any injury. I suspect in the weeks building up, maybe in the match with Bobby Lashley, Carlito actually picked up an injury because he's not match fit. That's what I personally think. Joey says the match was very disappointing. If you have them 20 minutes, they could have put on a 5-star banger. If you can't put on a great match in 15 minutes, you can't put on a great match. So I'm not entirely sure I fully agree with that one. James says Carlito will be going on NXT as a manager. I disagree. What does he offer that isn't better offered by someone else, younger and of greater potential in that NXT locker room? That's true, Leon. It was only 8 minutes. I didn't realise it was that short. Jesus. Joey says, I feel like they only give Seth and Roman long matches for the PLEs. Yeah, because Triple H needs his half-hour blocks. So typically the matches are 15 to 18 minutes. That's what Triple H likes. It used to be shorter under Vince McMahon when they were fitting 2 or 3 more in every show. Some of the matches are actually getting longer, but they knew War Games would just go on forever, and it did. Particularly the men's. The War Games format really doesn't suit pay-per-views, I don't feel. They just last forever. Like many of these commercial breaks are. I just feel like I haven't watched much SmackDown today. We're 45 minutes in and there's been very little actual SmackDown. It always seems to be either commercial or recap. Leon says, I'm honestly tired of Roman matches. Always boring, no matter who his opponent is. I agree. Particularly the match against Jay was just painful to watch. He never really does anything. Throws a few hits, gets the guy down, and then just gloats. It's incredibly slow paced, incredibly dull, and it lasts 45 minutes. He regularly lasts 45 minutes, which is the entire time between the beginning of SmackDown and now. James says, I wonder how long Manias would be if it was still one day. Got to be longer than the 8 hours of Roman's 45-minute matches, quite possibly. Joaquin Wild coming down solo. No sign of any support from Carlito, from Dragon Lee, from Rey Mysterio, nobody. No, not even Zelina Vega. I think there were still some great matches after 2015, Joey. There was a really good match of Elias that I remember, a really good match with The Miz that I remember, a really good sequence with Braun Strowman. The ambulance match in particular lives long in infamy. Joaquin Wild just fell over onto his mat. There was also a couple of good ones with Brock early on in the run. I'm thinking as well the matches against Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe really turned up for it. The matches against AJ Styles, that was in 2015. I imagine that's what you're referencing. Also, I feel Sami Zayn brought good stuff out of him. Buddy Murphy had a great match with Roman. Back in the days of Daniel Bryan and his weird championship. Big pop for Joaquin Wild. He does not often have an opportunity to really show what he can do, and Santos will be trying to make sure he gets that opportunity today. What I will say is I don't think the match is going to last very long because Joaquin Wild is going at a very high pace. James says, Roman's matches make me feel like they're making him a cocky Superman. No one can hurt me, and when I hurt them, I can show off. To be fair, that was always his thing. Can't beat Superman. John Cena no longer Superman. Corey Gray sounds very much like he'd like to have sex with some Santos Escobar. Well, that was a deadly looking dropkick. Joey says, I think Roman's best matches was the one with Daniel Bryan at Fastlane and the one with Brock at Mania 31. Quite early in his run, essentially when Roman Reigns retired Daniel Bryan, at least from the WWE. I think that match was fantastic as well. He's had some very good matches with Kevin Owens. If you forget the whole handcuff thing, the actual last man standing match 2 Rumbles ago was fantastic. Particularly the part where he ran Kevin Owens down with a golf buggy and Kevin Owens just went through the winch. It was sometimes crazy. Bailey says, what is Roman's future character development after he drops the belt? They're honestly not sure. There's still a lot to work out. They're honestly not sure what's going to be next for Roman. There's no easy options. Leon said he's had, I think, 6 matches this year. In my opinion, only one was high quality, referring to Sami at the Elimination Chamber. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think the match with Sami was very, very good. I think it's the only one. That said, I didn't see the LA Knight match. Thank you, James. Appreciate that. Did anyone else just get an ad on the YouTube side? King Azza, nice to see you, mate. Been a little while. They say, Tom, are they doing Randy versus Roman at the Rumble? King Azza, if you'd like to know what I think we'll see at the Royal Rumble, I uploaded a video on Wednesday, the PLE Wednesday video with a match card prediction for the Rumble. By all means, pop into the video section and check that out. Unskip? I don't want unskippable. I definitely don't want unskippable. Thanks for the heads up on that one, James. Wild continues to show off. He's doing extremely well. This is kind of what they do with that'll be that. With With Ludwig Kaiser. It's what they do with the Good Brothers. They just occasionally throw them in a match with someone that their faction is competing with. They have a couple of good minutes and then they get beat. Just like that. Just like that. Santos does not want anyone to raise his hand. The beating continues. Logically, there's a rescue incoming. Q43 says, do you think Karrion Kross would benefit from being sent down to NXT? Nope. I think if he's sent down to NXT, it will very much feel like he's being told, you're not good enough, go away. There are people like Baron Corbin who went down there to refresh his career. Mandy Rose, same thing. With Karrion Kross, he doesn't have a career to refresh. He doesn't get featured at all. Escobar tried to attack Dragon Lee there. This, of course, after having himself a match. James says, thank God Dragon Lee is getting chanted. He got a good response. He's had a very good introduction on SmackDown. He's basically there as a long-term replacement for Rey Mysterio, of course, whose contract does run out at some point. Except he keeps signing new ones because why not? King Azza says, Tom, do you see a CM Punk and Roman feud in the future? It's money. If you want a money feud, that's the one. Santos Escobar is sent packing. Dragon Lee must now be LWO because he's basically defending them. Defending his familia. Nick Aldis backstage with Logan Paul. I am expecting Logan Paul to be the draw segment. Only thing that really makes sense. Up next, Logan Paul will be the draw segment, trying to find himself a new challenger for the championship. I think this might be LA Knight's moment, guys. I think this might be LA Knight's moment. I reported previously that's something that they're talking about making happen. I'd be there for it. As we head into the end of the first hour, we have 26 people watching and only the 19 likes. One more gets us to 20. Can you be the one? Can you be the one? Not even a hashtag. Not even a hashtag. Can you be the one? Q43 says, why did they change the match from Carlito to Dragon Lee? Honestly, you've got me. It seems like a complete wasted opportunity. Why even have Carlito there if you're just going to go to Dragon Lee? You don't need to mess around like that. You could just be the match that you were going for in the first place. Very confusing. James says, I think what would be awesome is if Roman goes against Punk at Mania. Roman wins and beats Hogan's record. It would certainly be kicking Cody Rhodes out of the way. I don't know if WWE would go for it. Thank you. We ended up getting 2 there, so 2 of you were the one. Appreciate you. 21 now. So yes, I'm interested to see where they go with it. Who might lose out on an opportunity because of it. I mean, you can't really hide the fact that CM Punk is definitely bumping a few people out of a spot, but people seem a little less annoyed by it because they like CM Punk. Which, you know, each their own. Stuart says there can be only one. And now I've got Highlander in my head. Billy says, getting a little worried about the low-card performers and any future cuts. Some have literally disappeared. They have, and unfortunately it's people that, you know, we had some high hopes for. Karrion Kross disappearing, yeah, that does not make me feel confident about his future with the company. What can he actually do about it, though? Hard to say. Karrion Kross is not really in control of his own future. Nobody is. Nobody in that company is in charge of their own future. They're at the whim of Triple H, and he's at the whim of the Mighty Buck. Not to be confused with the Mighty Ducks. It's a little different. The Mighty Buck. It's all about the money, money, money. We don't need no money, money, money. We just want to make the world dance. Forget about the price tags. I don't know the next bit. And honestly, I feel that if I start saying it, it'll just end up being complete gibberish. So I'm going to go ahead and not try. They are pushing Bash in Berlin, which will be after SummerSlam, August 31st. This will also be the week after AEW at Wembley. So I'll be interested to see how they level that one up. Because you'll have all those wrestling fans going to Wembley from all over Europe. And then suddenly they're heading in the other direction. Adam Pearce also fighting for Randy Orton. As I said earlier, Randy Orton is not yet committed. I don't necessarily think this signing is going to happen, guys. I do like the contention between those two. It does feel kind of good having the old GM format back. Like, I honestly feel that they're actually trying to one-up each other, which is not something you'll have felt for a while. It's been a while since we've seen it, to be fair. Logan Paul heading down to the ring right on time for the draw segment. Interesting to see how this one goes because there's a lot of different potential opponents for him. King Azza says, I'll be okay with Roman winning at WrestleMania 40 if he beats Cody clean and on his own. You know that's not going to happen, right? You know it's not going to happen. Joey says, I'm bored of SmackDown. Well, hopefully Logan Paul can inspire you. And Leon says, I'm going to guess this is when LA Knight appears. I would certainly lean towards LA Knight here. That makes a lot of sense. Fun fact, my youngest did not know that Logan Paul was even a YouTuber. She thought he was a boxer who released an energy drink. I didn't tell her about the whole Japanese island of... Yeah, I didn't tell her how he became famous through the controversy of his videos. I felt that would ruin everything. Joey says it feels like the creative teams had a hangover from War Games. Not an unfair concept, to be fair. I like where they're going with Randy Orton, certainly, but I do feel there's limits to what they can do there. Logan Paul seems a bit bemused, a bit unhappy. I think he needs a hug. This is going to be a very, very awkward promo, isn't it? I do feel he'll be a very good champion. He'll represent very well. The crowd are trying to put him off, but he's absolutely got them in the palm of his hand. I don't really know what he's doing, but he's having a great time with it. James says, I'm not going to lie, 2 weeks ago I was bored of Raw. Now I enjoy Raw and get bored of SmackDown. There's a balancing act there. I think the CM Punk return got a lot of people talking and invested again. SmackDown, of course, doesn't have him. Again, not a bad line. Logan Paul's kind of on fire. He's been a very valuable signing. So who have we got? As I've reported previously, the creative team were looking at LA Knight versus Logan Paul potentially for WrestleMania. Royal Rumble would be a massive push ahead. Kind of an unnecessary one. Oh, okay. Okay. Santos Escobar deserves a shot. Yeah. Oh, hey, Karrion Kross is back. There is a good selection of people here. I mentioned during spoiler warning, Kevin Owens might be another good shout. I think he might be the guy here. And Kevin Owens immediately graces us with his presence. I still think LA Knight will be the WrestleMania match. But Kevin Owens is one of those. He'd bring a lot of credibility to it. King Arthur says, Tom, do you agree with me? Saying Rhea should beat Becky at WrestleMania 40. It's the right choice. Becky is already a made woman. Not necessarily. It depends. I just think they need a pivot. I would have Becky win, but I'd have her lose it to Jade Cargill a little down the way. I think it's bigger for Jade Cargill to beat Becky than it is to beat Rhea, for example. Gomar says they would save Logan versus LA Knight for Mania, and yes, that is indeed what I reported that was most likely. Stuart says I'm interested to see who the NXT guy will be. Could be anyone. Would be a great time to bring in a Bron Breakker, but I don't think they will. Give me Carmelo. Do it. Just go all in. Dragunov. Oh, there's some good choices. A lot of love for Kevin Owens here. Let's not forget it's also a draw segment for him. Of course, Logan Paul once backed up Sami Zayn in a feud against Kevin Owens. So they've got history. Kevin Owens was on Vine. Yeah, RIP Vine, absolutely. This is a promo battle I didn't know I needed, but I'm here for it. Fine. Pieces, aren't they being sued over that Prime drink? Not to my knowledge, no. There was a recommendation that it should be investigated, and that was by the, I believe, the House. If you're familiar with US politics, there's a House, there's a Senate, there's a President. I think it was a recommendation to investigate, but I don't know how far it's gone. Kevin Owens makes his position clear. He's here for the belt. What can Logan Paul do? Why has no one ever done the KOU line? That was smooth. James says Prime is suing another drink, I think. Who knows? Everyone's just scrapping for money. I think Logan Paul faced a lawsuit for the crypto scams. He was definitely, much like Mr. Beast, he and Mr. Beast are encouraging a lot of people to invest in crypto that's now gone absolutely bust. But they made a lot of money. Logically, I think we're about to have Grayson Waller versus Kevin Owens. Logan Paul, ideally, then, should stay ringside. That plus the women's match that we're still yet to see would bring us to our half-hour format. Who says, do you think this NXT wrestler will be a call-up? Hard to say. Depends if they've got any actual plans for them. I don't think Logan Paul will be defending the championship against an NXT wrestler, for example. I think it'll be Kevin Owens. But you give me a Bron Breakker and have him lose to a Bobby Lashley because of the Street Profits, I reckon you can get him over. P says apparently has the same caffeine level as 6 cans of Coke. Prime energy drink, yes, there's also Prime hydration, which is apparently separate, and that's why it was recommended for investigation, because it wasn't so clear. Joey, I'd imagine you'd very much enjoy watching me react to that one, because it wouldn't be fun. Kevin Owens just absolutely demolishing Austin Theory. Logan Paul just accepting of it. Okay. You do your tournament, doesn't really matter. They very much made clear what the intention is here. I suspect they are having a lot of fun with this. They know how to talk. The promos are going to be great. Leon says, not a fan of Prime. Too sweet for me. I've tried it a few times. It just doesn't taste very good. No, Joey, it wouldn't be silence. It would be a whole lot of things. It is my personal opinion that that man should not succeed in anything that he ever does. It is my personal opinion that Tyler Bate should not be wrestling. Or anything, in fact. But we'll move on. Gomar says Punk should win the Rumble and challenge Seth, so that way there can be a tournament of who gets to challenge Roman at Mania. That way Cody doesn't win the Rumble twice in a row. I don't think Cody's going to win the Rumble twice. I think they'll find another way for Cody. James says maybe it's Shane or Mac. You've got to stop doing this, mate. You've got to stop doing that. You know what's going to happen. If you keep saying his name, he will appear like a boogeyman. Or, more importantly, like Beetlejuice. And you can't say Beetlejuice 3 times. You have to avoid saying his name. Don't summon Shane O'Mac. It's dangerous. Guys, it's dangerous. Joey says Shane O'Mac versus CM Punk in a best in the world match. To be fair, they did replace CM Punk in that role. Shane McMahon won a tournament. He competed in half a wrestling match. He's the best in the world now. They got to give it up. They got to give it up. It is good to see Karrion Kross in that spot. It should hopefully be a natural opportunity for him. I don't necessarily think it will be. I think he's going to be out in the first round. But it could potentially be something good for him. It could lead to something. Karrion Kross versus someone. Hello, Cal. So say, mate, enjoyed your Mancunian way. For those who don't know, that's Martin's channel. He's a Man City fan. I popped on for the build-up to the Liverpool match because, being a Liverpool fan, because I'm an Everton fan who loves wrestling. Well, very nice to meet you, mate. You're very welcome here. We're doing ourselves a watch party of Smackdown, talking the return of CM Punk, way too many recaps. And yeah, just a crazy world of wrestling. Thanks very much for joining us. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I got some really positive feedback from that. I did expect it to be a bit more tribal, and honestly, it made me feel really welcome. Had some very good conversation. I didn't feel that anyone was being like aggressively, my team's better than your team, you know? That was good. Joey says, imagine if they brought back the greatest Royal Rumble and best in the World Cup for Saudi. They never should do that. Shane O'Mac is the definitive best in the world, apparently, because he competed in half a match in a tournament. The Miz, who never gets injured, was injured in kayfabe. Carnage. Absolute carnage. Also, the greatest Royal Rumble is the only Saudi show I actually watched. There was a championship that came with that. There is still, to this day, a Saudi Arabian champion, and everyone's just ignoring that. Logan Paul has joined commentary. He's naturally opened a bottle of Prime, which he takes with him everywhere he goes. Grayson Waller versus Kevin Owens first off. This apparently is not the tournament, but the tournament will be incoming. I don't think it's impossible that Logan Paul and Kevin Owens end up in a tag team match here. Stranger things have happened. Goo43 says, Omos has been at all the recent live events recently. Do you think this is just for attraction value? No, I think there's just very little else for him to do. And, you know, they need him working out there in front of a crowd to learn his craft. Gomar says, 4-2-3-1. Buzz, here comes the money. James wants Goldberg versus Logan Paul. You will not be getting your wish. Cal says, really good. I enjoyed a good discussion. Thank you, mate. I was a bit nervous going in, so it's good to know that people enjoyed it. Stuart says, can't do the greatest rumble without the under the ring dive by Titus. Titus World Slide. Titus World Slide. Cal says, I think it's 100% Rhodes will beat Reigns at WrestleMania. I can't imagine that they'll give him a second bite of the cherry and he'll still lose. That said, I did say WrestleMania last year I thought it was Cody's moment. So, I've been wrong before. Joey says Shane O'Mac versus Goldberg to see who gets gassed out first. Carlito, somehow. Somehow Carlito. Very awkward super kick from Grayson Waller. if it was supposed to be a super kick. This match feels a bit awkward. James says Solo's going to be the one. I would love it if Solo Sikoa win the Rumble. I really, genuinely would. There are so many possibilities that get opened when someone new wins a Royal Rumble, and Solo Sikoa will be a great person for it, especially after the win over Cena. That said, we haven't seen him so far tonight. It looks like Paul Heyman might be the only member of the Bloodline we see. No Jimmy, no Solo, Roman not back for another couple of weeks. There was definitely a time when the Bloodline was by far the only thing in WWE worth watching. Nowadays, you barely miss them. Cal says, imagine if Reigns beats him, we could see a riot. I really don't think we will. It's one of those where Roman is admired enough because of what he's accomplished. And also, I do feel a lot of people who, during Roman's heyday as a face, were screaming, he needs to be a heel, he needs to be this, he needs to be that. They're now patting themselves on the back. They're now saying, we were right. And the WWE is saying, yes, you were. So I don't think we're going to get to riot territory. I don't think Cody's really that popular compared, to be honest. The man's certainly over, but I still think he needs to establish himself quite a bit. King Azza says, Cody's story this year reminds me of John Cena's story from 2012. I think if Cody doesn't win, he needs to have more of a character change, like a more heelish edge. He really don't want to be a heel. It's one of the reasons he left AEW. Cal says, I have a theory that Rollins will lose his belt soon, but not to Punk. So we were discussing this earlier. Let me lay out my theory, Cal, and then you lay out yours. It was being mentioned earlier. I think WrestleMania, CM Punk challenges Seth Rollins and loses. I think that's the deal. He gets his main event, but he can't win it. Seth Rollins keeps hold of the championship. There was a suggestion in the chat earlier that Gunther could win himself a Money in the Bank and cash in at the Bash at Berlin. I mean, I'd love that. Bash at Berlin, and in fact the French show, a lot of love there for Kevin Owens. And in fact the show in France is being used with the intention, very simple intention, to soft launch NXT Europe. So having a big show for Gunther, for example, would be a very, very good thing. Leon says, really feels like they moved past the bloodline. It does, doesn't it? For the last year, we've barely seen them. And yet somehow still champions. James says, my biggest issue is this bloodline storyline is too repetitive. It has been for a while, yes. Austin Theory helping out there, making it clear to Grayson Waller that he went after Kevin Owens' hand. Good communication. Thank you, guys. James and Jack have had another ad. Anyone else? Seems like that just affected quite a small amount of people. Kevin Owens is indeed holding his wrist. He's selling that pretty good. Joey says, I wonder if they started signing people for NXT EU. There have been contracts available, but they do not activate until there is an NXT Europe to talk about. Gomar says, Judgment Day storyline feels bigger than the Bloodline currently, in my opinion, which, to be fair, is also a good sign of how they've used Bloodline. It was their year. Thank you, James. Appreciate it. If it was a full 2 hours and you got 3 ads, I'd think, oh, that's a decent level. But I don't think we're quite there. Thank you, Stuart. We might need to have a tweak and see if we can bring the frequency down a little bit. This is starting to feel it. Pardon me. This is starting to feel excessive. Cal says, nice theory. I think Priest will cash in very soon, leading to a WrestleMania triple threat main event match on night 1 with Punk versus Seth Rollins versus Priest. I wouldn't hate that. I wouldn't hate that. So my initial theory before we had CM Punk was that we would see a cash in and then a rematch, and Rollins would be challenging for the championship at WrestleMania. But over the course of it, I've started to think, I think Damian Priest is going to pull off a second heist of the century. I really do, because that briefcase won't last much longer. Now, it could be that that's what costs CM Punk the match, but I do think, imagine if Seth Rollins, the originator of the heist of the century, gets heist of the centuried. I just think that would be really quite fun. Joey says, do you think any of the NXT UK wrestlers were signed for NXT EU? Not every NXT UK wrestler was actually released. So many of them have actually still been on contracts the entire time. just because they're not wrestling, they're not getting paid. Which is why you haven't really seen them wrestling in the indies, and why you've only rarely seen them wrestling in NXT in general. Joey says, I think Finn Balor versus Damian Priest will happen at Mania. Interesting. How do you see us getting there? And Cal says, Money in the Bank next year's location being confirmed yet? It has not. I'm pretty confident right now what's going to be happening is they're going to be trying to negotiate with UK councils to see how much different cities and different towns in the UK, how much money they will give them. So the AEW model, for example, when they booked out Wembley, they paid for Wembley. They will have made plenty of money back because Wembley's huge and they've really sold a lot of tickets. So it was worth it. We come back exactly on a moment of splash. Well, they're not messing around, are they? So AEW paid for the privilege of Wembley. WWE, when they go to the UK, they get paid by the UK, which is why they've never gone to Wembley. So I'll be interested to see who becomes the highest bidder. I do think it might be a thing that Money in the Bank becomes a UK tradition. Go ahead, Cal, tell us. Joey says, got to keep an eye out for little things like that. Little tiny things. A large part of my job is just being aware of things like that. A long, long time ago, 2019, so a galaxy far, far away, I was the only one reporting that The Rock would be working with Becky Lynch for the opening Smackdown on Fox. Now, I reported it about 4 or 5 days beforehand, and it got a lot of traction, got a lot of interest and stuff like that. The very first source I had for this information was The Rock himself, because The Rock himself was quoted as saying he was really excited by Becky Lynch and he hoped to work with her one day. I then took this to a number of different sources and said, hey, so The Rock's interested in working with Becky Lynch. Have you heard anything about that? And because they thought, oh, he's got a source on this, he already knows something, we might as well talk about it. Suddenly, I had multiple sources telling me the same thing. Little things like that really do help the growth of a channel, the growth of a reputation, and of course, good old-fashioned making a living. Grayson Waller was going for his finish. He's not going to get many chances of that because it's got a hole outside and in. Kevin Owens is selling pretty well for him, though. King Azza says, where do you see WrestleMania 41 is going to happen? I think Florida. Really not sure on that one. I've got absolutely no information on it, and it seems like nobody does, really. Gomel says, Punk beating Seth and having Damien cash in would make an interesting story. I wouldn't have Punk win. It's not a heist of the century if the match is over. Cal says, next year, put Money in the Bank in Chicago. We can see Punk versus Cena. I think Cena will retire soon. That would be the perfect story. Cena beats Punk in Chicago. A fun idea, in my opinion. It would certainly get Cena back on track, but I don't think he wants to be back on track. I honestly don't think Cena's going to win another match. I think someone much lower down the card is going to beat him, take the rub from it, and then move on. But we'll see how it goes. The crowd are really into this match. Kevin Owens is doing good things for Grayson Waller here. Q43 says, according to WrestleTix, over 33,000 tickets have been distributed for All In. It's funny because we heard a lot about it last year and record-breaking and non-stop. Haven't heard a lot recently. I was just going for that exact example, Leon, as it was, something that I could say, oh, I have this information when all I'd actually done was good research. But yeah, for The Fiend, for Bray Wyatt, I had a very good record with anything Bray Wyatt, including, of course, reporting a month beforehand that he had signed a new deal and would be returning soon. Cal says, what do you think of the Ric Flair situation? I think it's the biggest mistake AEW have ever made. Had quite a successful video on it. Really enjoyed it. This match is going a lot longer than I expected, and honestly, it's still quite good. Owens with a decent leverage pin and a victory over Grayson Waller. Logan Paul does not seem happy. He does not want Kevin Owens. Grayson Waller had it. He had it. Cal says, you'd think AEW would look at how TNA collapsed and not do that, yet they're going down the same path. TNA certainly dropped down the rankings, but I wouldn't necessarily say they collapsed. As long as they have talent like Rosemary involved, there's always a reason to tune in. And I do feel, overall, while AEW certainly did damage to TNA, they're still covering their costs, they're still competing, they're still making some pretty good stories at times. And honestly, I'm quite enjoying it. Next up, we have a recap, once again, a lot of recaps so far tonight, of CM Punk's return. So it'll be that, it'll be the women's match, it'll be Randy Orton. Just another recap, so many. Eric says Tony Storm has been one of the few ex-WWE people to actually succeed in AEW. Depends how you measure success, to be fair. Jon Moxley is obviously one of the people who've succeeded well. I wouldn't necessarily say Claudio Castagnoli is not successful there. I think he's done pretty well for himself. Samoa Joe also, very much the same. I would say CM Punk as well. I did not realise they were pulling watch party videos. I did not recognise any of those people. Goose says, why do you think Cena putting over Austin Theory didn't help him? Because beating Cena doesn't mean anything anymore. There was a time when beating Cena was absolutely ridiculous. Something you could never imagine happening. Nowadays it's routine. Cal says, I stopped watching TNA around 2016, to be honest. Felt like a chore watching it. I've never been a regular watcher. I work 2 jobs. I have 2 kids. I don't have much time. WWE, I still cover. New Japan is sort of my guilty pleasure. I like Toru Yano, Murder Grandpa. Good people. What I'm interested to see is what happens when CM Punk gets told we're working in Saudi Arabia. When he's told to go to Saudi Arabia, then we'll find out if it's changed. Joey says it only felt important beating Cena when he was full-time. Eric says, if anyone here watches NXT, was Adam Cole this injury prone in NXT? Yep. Yes, he was. James says AEW feels like a chore to watch. Different strokes for different folks. If you're a regular viewer, you watch it week in, week out, AEW seems like it's exactly what you need. But as I mentioned before, the retention rate causes some problems. Coot43 says, what was the main reason for Jay White not signing to WWE? I believe he's been pretty open about this. He didn't feel like they wanted him badly enough. I suspect the same can be said for Will Ospreay. Bailey says, Athena has been very successful in Ring of Honor, but there's really no place for her in WWE. I do feel under Triple H, Athena, well, Emma Moon as she was at the time, would have gotten a lot more opportunities. But yeah, she got a couple of decent matches, a couple of decent spots. Wasn't the most respected, unfortunately. I think it was Ember Moon versus Bayley at SummerSlam was one of the last big opportunities she had. As I mentioned earlier on Spoiler Warning, I'm expecting to see CM Punk on SmackDown. They have just announced he will be here next week during the Tribute to the Troops show. Nice every now and then to have a report confirm that quickly. Carl says, I like how AEW are using Samoa Joe. Me too. He smashed CM Punk through the bottom of a table. It's very nicely done. Samoa Joe seems like someone, it's very hard to imagine a world in which he doesn't do well wherever he is. Literally wherever he is. He's the one person in AEW that I would definitely say I want back in WWE under Triple H. Jon Moxley as well, I think, fits that bill. I wouldn't say many more, to be honest. Adam Cole, Triple H will definitely want back, and I can't blame him for it. But, yeah, give me Samoa Joe. They just said the main event sponsored by Wingstop. I thought they said it was sponsored by Wingslots. Which, if you're not a Brooklyn Nine-Nine viewer, you will not understand what I just said, but I thought they said it was sponsored by Wingslots. Leon suggests Malachi Black, which I think is also fair. He was on the cusp of doing something. I don't know if it was something great. I don't know if it was something crap. But he was on the verge of doing something when they fired him. Something. Bianca Belair versus Kairi Sane will be the last half-hour block. That, of course, and Randy Orton's return. Plenty of Randy Orton and CM Punk going back and forth a little bit at the moment. They know how to get their ratings. Jack says, is next week's SmackDown going to still be 2 hours because the Tribute to the Troops show is usually just a 1 hour show? Yes, it will still be 2 hours long. That's why they're padding it a little bit and giving us people like CM Punk. James says, Mox versus Seth versus Roman is something we need. 3 top players in 2 different companies. We have seen the Shield triple threat, but that was, of course, Dean Ambrose. And honestly, I'd take it again. Certainly with this version of Roman Reigns, and this version of Seth Rollins, and this version of Jon Moxley. They are the final form. If this was the Shield now, it'd be completely different. Joey says, why did they do all of those vignettes for Malachi just to fire him a week later? It's the same thing I've said before, cost-benefit analysis. They decided, even with all the vignettes, he wasn't going to be worth the investment. James says, if it was this version of the Shield, it would be a crazy match. You are not wrong, sir. You are not wrong. Heading into our last half hour, I want to say a thank you to everyone who's joined us so far. We've had 356 views. Pretty nice number. More than that, we've had some fun. These watch parties, I don't really worry too much about views. You'll have noticed this compared to spoiler warning. I don't worry too much about views. I don't worry too much about likes. I don't really worry too much about saying let's get subscribers or anything like that because it's a watch party. We're trying to watch the show together. I don't even worry too much nowadays about making eye contact. Nowadays for me it's a lot more chill and I'm okay with it. Spoiler warning can at times get about 100 people in it and it's crazy and a lot of people asking for different things. Everything's just moving very quickly. These shows, not so much. It's nice and slow, can take a nice deep breath. Every now and then I can say nothing for a couple of seconds. It's quite nice. Joey says, I think they're relying on Randy to be the ratings draw. That's why everything else tonight has felt boring. The lack of Roman Reigns. They did have John Cena in that exact role to try and pop the ratings. Now, of course, he's gone. Randy Orton's going to be the guy. What needs to happen is Roman Reigns needs to come back. Bailey says, is Dexter Lumis still on the roster? Yes, he is. They just have no idea what to do with him. I'm still waiting on any evidence that he can make it on the main roster with that character. Cal says, maybe on my own. I very much like how Reigns wins matches of interference. That's what heels do. That's what between dominating people and interferences. I'm behind the way that Roman's winning. Also the fact that every now and then he does win clean. What I'm not behind is how slow his matches are. It's not entertaining to me. Yet 45 minutes waiting for Jey Uso to stand up doesn't work. Bailey standing separate from Damage Control here. Dakota Kai showing a bit of compassion. That won't last. Io Sky dismissing Bailey. A loss here would actually be a good thing for Bailey. Dakota continues to be the mouthpiece. Kairi Sane looks amazing as always. Leon says no signs of the OC returning. Peter Insider may be wrong again. Well, there is still time. There's still the possibility that the OC and AJ Styles interrupt the return of Randy Orton. I don't necessarily see it. But it's not the first time that Peter Insider reported that AJ Styles is coming back. So this time around they didn't say AJ Styles, of course. They did say Gallows and Anderson. Joey says, I think Dexter's character would work in Impact, but not in WWE or AEW. I agree with you there, Joey. I think the Dexter Lumis character just does not fit a quote-unquote serious wrestling promotion. I mean, Carl, I wouldn't hate it. Roman Reigns has also been Heist of the Century. Why not? James says, bring back Index and do it against Miz and Maurice. Maurice, I don't believe, wrestles anymore. It's been a while. Io Sky holding up a championship. Damage Control generating some of their own little group poses. Asuka still seems a bit unrelated to the group. A bit of an outsider looking in. And we're away. Bianca versus Kairi. Dakota Kai on the outside cheerleading. You've also got Io, the champion, Asuka, to level up against Charlotte and Shotzi. So still plenty of people involved in this. Plenty of carnage on the way. Could well be considerably more overbooked than you'd expect. That was literally a kick to the butt. Kairi literally kicking her ass. Camera went too close. Could hear Bianca saying, let go. Leon says, I think Dexter Lumis' character will work in horror films, not really in wrestling. Sometimes I feel the same about Karrion Kross. Joey says, do you think NXT 2.0 helped develop any wrestlers? Yeah, absolutely. 2.0 was there for a reason. NXT had failed at that point. It was not developing wrestlers who could make it on the main roster. It wasn't. Wrestlers who were being called up were failing hard. All of them. They didn't have personality. They'd come up, they'd be good wrestlers, and they'd be going into a field of really good wrestlers. You don't stand out. When Nikki Cross came up, she was crazy. That was her entire character. They needed to round them out. 2.0 was a necessary evil. We'll see how it goes, Cal. On this channel, we do PLE Wednesday, so every Wednesday I do something building towards the next PLE, the next big PLE, WrestleMania predictions, etc. My video on Wednesday stated that CM Punk was going to win the Royal Rumble. I just think that's where we're headed. Asuka making herself useful. Charlotte and Shotzi not wading in as of yet. Surprised by that, but I imagine they need to keep that ready for the commercial break. Bailey says, why hasn't Indy Hartwell gone anywhere? Talent, character development, or no natural feuds? So, it's a lot of those things. The faces got caught. I like that because the heels are more experienced, but then Asuka screwed up. So it's an everyone backstage situation. I imagine it was about to be a commercial break then. For Indy Hartwell, the pairings that they were looking for didn't happen. The way didn't happen. Johnny Gargano wasn't really featured all that much. I don't know. Indy Hartwell never really got the opportunities because of being injured when she came up, which was very unfortunate, bad luck. And then, yeah, she was just paired with people who also weren't appearing. There's a lot of people that Triple H brought in who just haven't been involved in anything. Carl says, that's my opinion on AEW and a lot of other promotions. Great in-ring performers, however they're so poor on the mic. WWE have so many good wrestlers on the mic. So this also comes down to experience. I remember an AEW promo between Taz and Jake the Snake. They literally just shouted over each other. That's all they did. They just shouted over each other. It was garbage. People rail against the WWE structure of like your turn, my turn, bullet points. But it works. They do know what they're doing. Gervin says, main roster, who's booking Nikki Cross better, Mr. McMahon or Triple H? Vince. What has Nikki Cross actually done under Triple H? Genuine question. I don't think she's actually done anything. Like, he's made her a little more crazy. That's kind of it. Joey, that's not entirely the case. Johnny Gargano was cut once. The rest of the time he wasn't booked. Gomar says, whatever happened to Bobby Roode? For a while he was working backstage. I suspect he may have recently been cut, but I cannot confirm that at this time. Cal says, do you think if Bray never passed, he would have returned as a Fiend? I think there would have been allusions to the Fiend, but no, I don't think he would have. He was intending to create a brand new story, and unfortunately it didn't pay off. Martin says, hey Tom, how are you? Sorry, my spoiler warning. Hope you're good, mate. Been busy. No worries, mate. I know how busy you are. I know a little bit about what's going on in your life, so I hope you're okay. As we got spoiler warning, you can always watch it back. You know this. It was a very fun show. A very fun show. Good to see you, mate. Coup43 says, for how much AEW liked promoting the 4 pillars, they haven't really done too much with some of them. That's true. And that is another example of they use certain phrases and the like to make you care about people, and then they forget about it. Kevin says WWE have no Karrion Kross. Karrion Kross has just been announced, literally just been announced, as competing in a tournament for the United States Championship. They do have one. Yeah, I appreciated it, Martin. Carl introduced himself a little bit ago. He's jumping in with quite a few comments, quite a few opinions, and it's really helping the chat flow. I very much appreciate it. Joey says, I kind of wish we got Kross versus Bray Mania 39. Would have been an interesting match. It wasn't to be, unfortunately. That's all we can really say about it. Kel says, who do you think Brock's next feud will be? I suspect Brock will return at the Royal Rumble and start a feud with Gunther. I think Gunther may well beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental Championship. That'd be big. I'd enjoy that. Cal says, Orton, maybe I'd like that. Have to see Reigns versus Punk, Heyman Guy versus Heyman Guy. I'm sure that day will come. I'm sure it will. Thank you very kindly, Pete. I very much appreciate that. A very generous donation. Thank you very much for it. We have a lot of very generous people in here who've done a lot to help get this channel on its way. And yeah, I'm very appreciative of that, Pete. Thank you very kindly. As that is a donation, it will go straight back into the channel. As you know, either with channel advertising, lately I've been using it for editing software as well, and it does also go towards paying for the TV deal that gets me access to SmackDown and Raw, so I very much appreciate it. It will not be used as a paycheck for myself. I don't do that with donations, as you know, but I just wanted to reiterate that point. Thank you very much. Joey says, will there be an updated Mania match card around Royal Rumble time when we start seeing storylines playing out? Yes, there will. Let me just check my rudimentary sheet of paper. Updated Mania predictions, December 13th. So December 13th, there'll be updated Mania predictions. Only 2 weeks. Carl says, problem is I don't trust Punk to be on his best behaviour. Said it before and I'll say it again. He might say he's changed, but here's the thing. Punk is a flight risk. Also, I want to read out the comment that Pete left with the super chat saying you are a champion to us all. I very much appreciate you saying that, sir. Very much appreciate it. But it's just little old me. It's just little old me. Martin says, I'm still thinking it's all a little too predictable at the minute. From Triple H booking wise, I'd love a curveball, to be honest, between Rumble and Mania. Well, you never know. I mean, CM Punk's arriving on SmackDown next week. Maybe he's going to go for Roman. Bailey says, how long do you see Imperium staying together? I don't necessarily see a breakup in their future at all. I think they're happy together and I think they work. I wouldn't break them up at all. Pete says, I got a bonus, so I thought I would share the joy. You deserve it. Thank you, Pete. Appreciate you. James says, Kevin Owens isn't even in the Rumble poster, but Ray and LA Knight are. Yep. They're covering different ground. Martin says, I'm home. Really, Punk? Slagged WWF for 10 years and I'm home. Really? Yep, that's what he did. And people think he was being honest there. Cal says, Tom, do you think our new ground will be used for WWE or AW pay-per-views? It really does depend. I believe, is it Steve Rotherham, the MP, in that area? Because basically it's up to them to pay WWE enough to come over. I don't see Everton being able to pay it at the moment. Bianca Belair starting to take control of Kairi Sane. She's hovering. There's Bayley. Ignoring instruction from Io Sky. We have a Bayley. Kairi Sane recognizing what's happening. Once again, Bayley is proving to be incredibly valuable. Don't do it, Kairi. Kairi going for the elbow. She's not beating Bianca. That's not going to happen. She's stalling. She's not beating Bianca. There's no chance that happens. Thank you very much, Martin. Another very generous donation. Another thing which will go straight back into the channel. Thank you very kindly. I very much appreciate your continued generosity. Bianca continues to be Superman. Kairi Sane took too long. Bayley did everything right. Kairi Sane just did not finish the job. You can't blame Bayley for that one. Solid match, I felt. They got rid of the outside interference nice and early. They continued with the storyline with Bayley. But ultimately, I just think Bianca Belair and Kairi Sane have a good bit of chemistry. I would give the match a 7. Very happy with it. I wouldn't call it one-upping, James. I wouldn't call it one-upping. Gomez said I didn't get the hate for his promo back. I thought it was solid. Why would he come back being disrespectful and taking shots at AEW after everything that's happened? As I say, the intention was to prove the point of he's changed. Best way to do that is to come back calm. Because one thing he's not known for is being calm. The man just does not do that. No, Cal. Alexa Bliss, when she returns, she will not be doing a Bray Wyatt style character. That character was written by Bray Wyatt. Naturally, there's no one to write it now. Martin says, the home part I cringed at, as I'm not 100% he meant it. Maybe he did and you have to go away to realise where home is. Maybe true. Maybe true. Who can tell at this point, to be fair? Difficult. I honestly didn't realise that. You're right. There is a 1 cent difference. Well, 1 penny, I should say. Well, to be fair, Pete also left me a cookie, so... Pete gives the match an 8. Leon gives it a 7. How would we rate that match out of 10? What do people think? You do always help, Martin. You have personally donated a lot of time and effort, and I absolutely have nothing but appreciation for that. I do want to remind everyone, I will not be hosting a watch party or spoiler warning on Friday next week. I'm going Christmas shopping, so I will be out of town. I'm not going to tell you where I'm going, but I will be out of town next weekend. Cal says I really like Bliss, to be honest. I think she's a very good character. I agree. I'm a very, very big fan of Alexa Bliss, mostly because when she came in, she was just immediately a very good talker. I was one of the first people to buy an Alexa Bliss t-shirt. I'm not wearing it right now. What am I wearing right now? I'm wearing Bullet Club right now. I'm wearing Bullet Club. I'm indeed wearing Bullet Club right now. But the Alexa Bliss t-shirt is very much in the rotation. Well, then I'm not going to eat it, Pete, but I appreciate the thought. Kervin gives the match a 6 as well. Martin says, did I miss any Mercedes news on spoiler warning? Nothing major. Nothing major. There was a couple of conversations and a couple of questions about it, but it's mostly stuff I've already mentioned. Triple H in constant contact, for example. No, we got you, Martin. Don't worry. Mine says, only asking as SRS was asked today and he said he heard nothing on Mercedes. As they only what I've already reported, something has stalled in the deal, but we weren't expecting her to sign a new deal until the beginning of next year anyway, when she was going to be returning. Always nice of her to confirm what I've already reported. Cal says, hope to see you more on Mancunian way, Tom. Really enjoyed that show. Martin's a good host. Would like to see you have a longer show. Maybe that day will come. I'd certainly be open to it. We can make it work. It's just there's a little bit of working out the logistics of it, when I'm available, when Martin's available naturally. But I very much enjoyed appearing on the channel, and I would very much welcome the opportunity to do more to help however I can. Martin says, I'd love a damage control, attack Bayley, then Mercedes helps her. I don't think that moment is coming yet. I think the door is open for a Mercedes return. I don't think she wants to come back as of yet. I think she's got a lot more she wants to be getting on with when it comes to the world of... when it comes to the wonderful world of craziness that is wrestling. Next week for the tournament for the United States Championship, Dragon Lee versus Santos Escobar, Bobby Lashley versus Karrion Kross. I think Karrion Kross is out in the first round. Also next week, Charlotte Flair versus Asuka. Okay. War Games really genuinely meant nothing. And yep, as I mentioned earlier, CM Punk will appear on SmackDown next week for tribute to the troops. I did, of course, mention earlier that he would be appearing on SmackDown the weeks to come, not necessarily the exact week. Joey says SmackDown looks like a stacked show next week. It does. They're absolutely going for those ratings. He does, Cal. Very true. Cal says, do you think Brock will ever win a main title again? I do. I definitely do. I think he'll get his moment. Bayley says Charlotte versus Asuka, and Bayley costs Asuka the match. I don't think there'll be a cost. I mean, she didn't cost Kairi the match. She did everything she could. Nick Aldis introducing Randy Orton, whose return has been somewhat overshadowed by the return of CM Punk. But I think he'll manage to find a way. Leon says Randy looks like an action figure. He's so jacked. He's also just so happy. I don't think it's said enough or really recognised. Orton thought his career was over. He was told, you will never wrestle again. And upon hearing that, he basically said, F you, I'll do whatever the hell I want. Since then, he has been on a mission. He has done everything he possibly can. He has pushed so hard to get back into this ring. I cannot imagine how happy he is right now. And yes, he is indeed a free agent. They are currently quibbling over his signing. I would imagine this ends inconclusively. James says, Randy, 10 more years, let's go. Also thinks Randy looks taller. Leon's happy he's back. And Bayley says, Nick Aldis, loyal to the three-piece suit. I can't blame anyone for that. He looks very, very good. Very, very good. Cal says, do you think WWE will stay away from Hogan and certain legends after the Flair AEW drama? Triple H would not willingly invite back Hulk Hogan. Triple H cannot stand him. No, Joey, I don't think we're going to see, as you phrase it, PG pipe bombs. Neil said a PG pump bomb. Kervin says, Charlotte versus Asuka again. Give me a fresh match. Get Shotzi in there. Get Shotzi in the ring of Asuka. She can afford a couple of losses. She's still building her way up. Give her an opportunity. Huge, huge reception for Randy Orton. There is a competition right now between CM Punk and Randy Orton to see who can get the biggest pops, by the way. You'd think it would be basically guaranteed CM Punk, but here we are. Some do, Cal. He will never be popular in this here chat. Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce making sure to give Randy Orton time. Nick Aldis is going to offer in the Rumble match. That is a huge offer. Nick Aldis can offer bigger. There it is. Naturally, Paul Heyman had to be here. Leon says, I'm personally more happy to see Randy back over Punk. Same. And James says, I really want Heyman to catch an RKO. The day will come. Pete says, do you see Heyman getting back with Punk? No. He's facilitating a Punk versus Reigns match. He's not succeeded yet. Cal says, and I agree, he thinks Heyman will be done after Reigns. I do agree. The crowd has come alive here. Randy Orton's got his eyes locked on Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman. Tells you everything you need to know about what's going to happen next. Just the words Roman Reigns should be enough for Randy Orton to make a decision. James says, if Heyman can catch an F5 through a table, he can catch an RKO. Definitely. Cal says, realistically, it's never getting bigger than Reigns for Heyman. It's not. It's absolutely not. Martin says, is Punk, SmackDown or Raw or free? Sorry to ask, I'm confused. Easily done. He's free at the moment. They don't want to basically lock anyone in. They just want to give everyone a bit of time. Ideally, Triple H doesn't want to lock anyone in until the draft and then basically do the reset, but we are where we are. It's a good way to get Randy the championship match. Okay. Randy Orton keeping an eye out for Solo and Jimmy here. It is indeed Solo coming out. Solo's got a big push coming. It looks like he'll be working with Randy Orton until Roman returns. Jimmy heading down with him. You may notice no signature happened. They are going to drag this out for a while. As I said earlier in spoiler warning, Randy Orton not committing. Also, the video was literally titled Roman Reigns and Randy Orton at Royal Rumble. Cal says, part of me doesn't want it to end in regards to Reigns' GOAT run. Martin says, Raw needs stars to keep ratings. LA Knight coming out to help Randy Orton and even the odds. How did I not see that one coming? It's funny because so many people seem to think that LA Knight, after losing to Roman, would just be forgotten about. Here he is defending and working with Randy Orton. Cal says, the end of Punk's long run became boring. Same with so many. I still enjoy Reigns' title reign. James is done with LA Knight. He always seems to pop up at exactly the right moment. Jimmy's about to get RKO'd. Oh no, draping DDT. Alright. Martin says, I want Cody to complete the dream. I mean, wait for it. Randy Orton getting a modicum of revenge against the Bloodline if Nick Aldis wants to step in the ring now. Now might be your time, Nick. The crowd are going crazy for it. We have an impending RKO. Jimmy takes it nicely. Bends his knees. Most people just go flat. He bends his knees. LA Knight and Solo Sikoa just vanished somewhere. Randy Orton, is he going for the contract? Paul Heyman might be right. He might have made the decision for him. He's taking them both. Why is he taking them both? Taking them both on a microphone. What are you doing, Randy? What's up, bro? Cal says, problem Rhodes has living up to Roman will be impossible. It's going to take someone special. I don't think anyone's going to even try and live up to Roman, to be honest. Martin says, Cody has to get a Winged Eagle belt. Sorry, championship, to complete it. A belt holds pants up. If you know, you know. Raw have been rejected. Randy Orton signs with SmackDown for an opportunity at the Royal Rumble against Roman Reigns. Once again, I still wouldn't say I'll 100% commit. I would expect to see a lot of Randy Orton on both channels, quite a lot, in the next few weeks. Gomar says, if Randy on SmackDown, I'm assuming this means Punk on Raw. It does indeed. Joey says, no Good Brothers tonight. Peter Insider got that wrong. Cal says, think the Usos will face each other at WrestleMania? Yeah, pretty much. Randy Orton fits very well in the whole daddy concept. I know a lot of people are going to be very happy hearing that soundbite. It's going to be a little wrong, but still very much there. Nick Aldis G'ing up the crowd. And naturally immediately gets betrayed. That is the first actual piece of wrestling that he's done. I still see Nick Aldis wrestling sooner rather than later, and that certainly supports the concept. That is how we are ending SmackDown. Randy Orton has signed on and will likely be facing Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. Meanwhile, he will, of course, be working directly with names such as Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa in the build. Of course, their main focus is on getting the ratings. So CM Punk, Randy Orton will be quite open and available over the next few weeks. Cal says, Tom, off topic, who do you think wins the league this season? You know who. Martin says, Randy versus Aldis at Mania. The suggestion seemed to be, someone said it earlier in the chat, Solo versus Randy. I'd go for that. Pete says, see you all soon. Great show, Tom. Thank you, Pete. And Bailey says, thanks, Tom. Thank you for joining us, Bailey. We are going to wrap it up there using the patented Tom Colohue catchphrase, because I'm OCD, like literally clinically OCD, and I need to sign off in a certain way, otherwise my brain, it's like music doesn't resolve unless you hit the right notes. So I want to say a massive thank you to all of you. We will not be hosting Spoiler Warning or a watch party next Friday. I'll be out of town. We'll still have Spoiler Warning on Monday and then the following Monday as well as WTF Wrestling this upcoming Sunday and next Sunday, and PLE Wednesdays as well. So all that's left to say is that I've been Tom Colohue, you have been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.